I started to play the cello many years ago when I was 10 years old in Israel. I grew up in a tiny kibbutz in the north of the country, and the first present I got from my family was a little tape cassette with music for cello and piano, and it was with Pablo Casals. Pablo Casals plays the cello, and the cover had a little drawing of him. And I remember that I fell in love with the sound of the cello because of that tape recording. And every night before going to sleep, I used to put bits of it and listen to it and fall asleep with it. This was my first experience of hearing cello sound outside of my own sound in the lesson, which was not so pleasant. Those days I was mostly into basketball. Cello was just a secondary thing, and if anybody would tell me back then that one day I would become a professional cellist, I would simply laugh in their face. If anybody would tell me that one day not only I will be a professional cellist, but I will be able to play Pablo Casals' cello, the same cellos that I had on that tape cassette, I would probably just die. I would just fall on the floor and not believe it. But here I am, many years later, and I have this magnificent cello with me, and I have a name for it. I call it Pablo. And Pablo and I have been traveling the world and getting to know each other for the past 6 months. About 8 months ago, I had the honor and privilege to play for the legendary Marta Istomin Casals. Marta is a great musician and a great philanthrope of the art, and I was fortunate to have 1 hour of her time and to play for her. I was really nervous, and the plan was not to play in order to conquer the cello. I just played for her because I wanted to meet her, as she's such a legend in the music world and beyond. And I came to her apartment in Washington. I was shaking, being so nervous. And I thought, well, I should start with Bach, because Bach is so much associated with Casals and with her and with the history of everything that she was involved in. And I started with the first suite, and I played the prelude. And I stopped, and she said, well, Amit, when I hear a young artist, I usually shut my ears off after a few seconds. But I didn't do that when you played, and I was so happy. I said to myself, wow, cool. But then she said, well, because I liked it, can I give you some comments? And I said, oh, sure, it would be an honor. And basically, from that moment on, she killed me. She just tore me apart. And it turned out to be one of the greatest lessons I had in my life. I continued with some other dances of Bach, and I went to Chopin Sonata and Haydn Concerto and Brahms Sonata, and we went along, and she wanted to hear more and more and more. And as we got along, I remember the lessons with Greenhouse and this whole attitude towards music, this whole control of the vibrato, changing the speed of the vibrato, the speed of the bow, making phrases. It was just amazing. And then at one point she said, well, let's have a glass of wine. I put my cello back in the case, and I sat next to her, and she said, well, Amit, you know the maestro, as she referred to Casals. The maestro's cello is in my apartment in New York, and nobody has been playing it for many years. Now, you're too big, the cello is quite small, but why don't you come and try it if you want? And I was on the floor. I tried hard not to show it, but I was shocked. And I said, well, sure, I would be honored to do that. And sure enough, a few weeks later, I came to New York, and she greeted me. She opened the door and handed me the cello right away, and I sat with it, and I looked at it, and all those memories of my childhood and the sound of Greenhouse and how all this history came, and I was really shaking. because of the history behind it. And she said, why don't you play a few notes in front of her? That was really scary. And I felt like the first thing I should play is the slow movement of the Dvorak concerto. I don't know why. Of course, his famous recording was in my mind, and I played the first phrase, and I told her, well, I can't continue playing. All this history comes back to me, and I can't continue. And then she says, well, the maestro would have played it faster. So that was her first reaction. And then I calmed down a little bit and I started playing, and then she was talking to some other people, and I got to know the cello, and it was like waking an old man. And this old man didn't want to wake up. He was very comfortable and peaceful in the case, and I just took it out and said, well, new chapter in life you're about to start. And it was not so comfortable. So we had some issues in the beginning, but the more I've been playing it, the more I realized that it has its own voice. My job is really not to disturb it. It's not to impose my sound on it. It's to find this voice, this special voice in it, and to let it go out without me disturbing it. And while doing that, this instrument can suggest so many colors that I didn't know that exist. And that's the beauty of it. And I feel so privileged and honored now to travel around the world and to share it with public everywhere. It's a wonderful thing to have. Just imagining that this could have been in a museum would be just tragic. So here I am with Pablo.